Maybe you still get angry but you don't react as quickly as you used to. Maybe someone disappoints you and instead of spending the entire day replaying it, you eventually return to your life. Maybe someone misunderstands you and for the first time, you don't feel an overwhelming need to explain yourself. These changes can seem small. Sometimes they don't even feel like progress. That's because most people imagine emotional strength as becoming fearless, detached, or impossible to hurt. But real emotional growth is usually much quieter. You still feel things deeply. The difference is that your emotions have less control over what happens next. Here are 7 signs you may already be becoming emotionally unstoppable without realizing it. And if you enjoy understanding the psychology behind your emotions and becoming more self-aware, subscribe. That's exactly what we explore here. The first sign is that you can feel an impulse without immediately obeying it. Imagine receiving a message that makes you angry. You feel the rush almost instantly. Your mind starts building a response. You want to explain yourself, defend yourself, maybe send something sharp enough to make the other person understand exactly how you feel. In the past, you might have replied immediately and regretted it later. But now something different happens. You pause. Maybe you put the phone down. Maybe you write the response and delete it. Maybe you wait 10 minutes before deciding whether the conversation even deserves that reaction. The anger hasn't disappeared. That's important. Emotional strength doesn't mean the impulse disappears. It means the impulse stops being a command. A small space begins forming between what you feel and what you choose. And inside that space is something incredibly valuable: freedom. Because once you stop automatically becoming whatever your strongest emotion demands in the moment, your behavior begins belonging to you again. The second sign is that you recover faster. You can still be disappointed. Rejection can still hurt. Criticism can still get under your skin. An uncomfortable conversation can still stay in your mind afterward. But notice how long it stays there. Maybe something that once ruined your entire weekend now bothers you for an evening. Maybe you still replay an awkward conversation, but eventually your attention returns to your work, your friends, your book, your dinner, your life. People sometimes measure emotional strength by asking, "Why does this still affect me?" Try measuring something else. How quickly do you return to yourself? Psychological resilience isn't necessarily about becoming harder to hurt. Often it's about becoming better at recovering. The event still happens. The emotion still arrives. But it occupies less psychological territory. You no longer give one bad moment permission to become a bad day, and one bad day permission to become a story about your entire life. The third sign is that you no longer need to win every misunderstanding. Someone thinks you're selfish because you said no. Someone interprets your silence as arrogance. Someone forms an opinion about you based on one moment and seems completely convinced they're right. There was probably a time when this created urgency. You needed to explain. Correct them. Provide context. Make them see the version of you that you believed was accurate. But eventually you begin asking a different question. Does this actually need my energy? That doesn't mean becoming passive. Important misunderstandings should sometimes be corrected. Healthy relationships require communication, and boundaries sometimes need to be defended clearly. But every incorrect opinion about you is not an emergency. Some people will misunderstand you even after you explain yourself perfectly. And emotional freedom begins when you realize that another person's interpretation of you does not automatically become your responsibility. Not everyone needs access to the correct version of you. Sometimes you can simply let them be wrong. And once other people's opinions stop controlling so much of your emotional energy, something else begins changing too. The fourth sign is that other people's moods stop automatically becoming your mood. Someone walks into the room irritated. A friend suddenly becomes distant. Your partner is unusually quiet. A coworker seems stressed. And immediately, your mind may want to ask, did I do something? Are they upset with me? Do I need to fix this? When you're highly sensitive to other people's emotional states, their mood can become your assignment. But emotional maturity creates separation. You can notice that someone is upset without immediately assuming you're responsible. You can care about their feelings without feeling obligated to regulate them for them. Empathy means understanding someone's emotion. Emotional fusion means feeling responsible for fixing it. Those are not the same thing. You can ask, "Are you okay?" without allowing their answer to determine your emotional stability for the next 6 hours. You can support someone without climbing inside their emotional state. And you can love people deeply while recognizing that some feelings belong to them, not to you. If one of these signs is already making you recognize a change in yourself, tell me which one in the comments. And if you're finding this useful, leave a like. It helps more people find these conversations. The fifth sign is that discomfort no longer automatically means stop. This one changes more than people realize. You need to have a difficult conversation and your stomach tightens. You need to set a boundary and guilt appears. You try something unfamiliar and suddenly you want to retreat. You say no, and part of you desperately wants to take it back just to remove the tension. The old pattern is simple: discomfort appears so you escape it. An escape works, for a moment. You cancel the conversation. You abandon the boundary. You seek reassurance. You return to what feels familiar. The discomfort falls, and your mind learns that escaping was what saved you. But eventually you begin discovering something different. This feels uncomfortable does not automatically mean this is wrong. So you stay. You let the awkward silence exist. You tolerate uncertainty. You allow someone to be disappointed. You experience the anxiety without immediately reorganizing your behavior around making it disappear. And then you discover something important. The feeling moves. It rises, changes, and eventually falls. You don't have to run from every uncomfortable emotion to survive it. Sometimes psychological growth is simply your nervous system learning, through experience, I can feel this without running away. The sixth sign is that you choose what's good for you even when it doesn't feel good yet. This is where emotional strength starts becoming visible in your decisions. Because the emotionally easiest choice and the psychologically healthier choice are not always the same. Staying in a draining relationship may feel easier than facing loneliness. Abandoning a boundary may feel easier than tolerating someone's disappointment. Avoiding the difficult task may feel better tonight. Returning to familiar attention may feel easier than sitting with yourself. But slowly the question changes. Instead of only asking, what will make me feel better right now, you begin asking, what choice will I respect tomorrow? That doesn't mean forcing yourself to be productive every second. Sometimes the healthier decision is resting. Sometimes it's asking for help. Sometimes it's admitting you can't do everything alone. And sometimes it's walking away from something you've spent years trying to fix. The point isn't constant discipline. It's intentional choice. Your immediate emotional state stops receiving the final vote on every decision. You start choosing according to the person you're trying to become, not only according to the feeling you're trying to escape. And eventually all of these changes lead to the deepest sign. The seventh sign is that your identity becomes harder to shake. Someone rejects you. It hurts, but rejection no longer automatically becomes proof that you're unlovable. You fail at something important. You're disappointed, but failure no longer immediately becomes, I'm a failure. Someone criticizes you. Instead of either collapsing or becoming defensive, you can ask, is there something useful here? And if there is, you take it. If there isn't, you let it go. This is one of the most powerful shifts in emotional development. Circumstances can affect your emotional state without constantly rewriting your identity. And strangely, becoming more secure doesn't make you less willing to change. It can make you more willing. When your entire identity isn't threatened by being wrong, you can admit a mistake. When criticism doesn't automatically mean you're worthless, you can listen. When apologizing doesn't feel like losing, you can apologize sincerely. When failure doesn't define you, you can learn from it. Stable confidence isn't believing you're always right. It's knowing that discovering you were wrong doesn't destroy who you are. And that's what being emotionally unstoppable actually means. It doesn't mean nothing hurts you. It doesn't mean nobody affects you. It doesn't mean you never become anxious, angry, insecure, disappointed, or sad. It means those feelings no longer automatically decide what happens next. You pause before reacting. You recover instead of remaining trapped. You stop chasing every misunderstanding. You care about other people's emotions without automatically carrying them. You tolerate discomfort instead of immediately escaping it. You make decisions based on what matters to you. And slowly your identity becomes less dependent on what happened today, who approved of you, who rejected you, or what went wrong. Maybe emotional strength isn't becoming impossible to shake. Maybe it's learning that even when life shakes you, you know how to return to yourself. So which of these 7 signs have you started noticing in yourself, even if you didn't recognize it as progress until now? Tell me the number in the comments. And if this video gave you something worth thinking about, leave a like. Then watch the video appearing on your screen right now. We'll keep exploring the psychology behind your emotions, your behavior, and the patterns that can help you understand yourself more deeply.